Hi guys, it is the Wednesday before Mother's Day, so happy pre-Mother's Day to any kick-ass moms out there, and honestly, happy you day to anybody raising kids right now. It is Mother's Day in the US coming up, but not yet Mother's Day in France. Fun fact, it is not the same day. If you haven't seen any of my videos before, then you don't know that I'm a brand new mom, but I did just have our first child. It's a little girl, her name is Eleonore, about 5 months ago now. So my husband is French and I'm American, so she's half French, half American, and we're raising her in Paris right now. Eleonore is quite young. She's still an infant. She can't do much more than like roll from her front to her back. So I can't say that I'm overwhelmed yet with the French way of parenting. However, I have been exposed already to some key ways of French parenting thanks to my in-laws, thanks to my pediatrician, and just society in general. So let me jump into the 5 big insights in French parenting that I've seen in case you want to get some tips and incorporate some French style into your parenting. The first thing that I noticed about French parenting, and it's something that you'll see way past the infant age, is that the French treat their kids as if they have the capacity to understand like an adult, no matter what age they are. They also dress up their little babies like miniature adults with little like collared shirts and sweaters. It's absolutely adorable, but this is not a fashion video, so I'll move on from that. But this idea that kids can be rational, that they're born understanding the language, and that it's important to speak to them on the same intellectual level as anyone else is a key part of parenting. It's almost as if the French feel like their kids deserve the same respect in terms of communication as everybody else, and so you must communicate with them as if they understand everything you're saying. Now, I'm not saying that the French women like birth geniuses that already understand everything, and I'm not saying in the US we don't talk to our infants either. I just feel like in the US often we talk to our children, like our babies, because A, like at some point we want them to speak too, and so you kind of need to get them used to the language, and B, but sometimes it's your only companionship when you're at home with a baby, and so you kind of babble away because it's someone to talk to. In France, they do the same thing, but just with a bit of a different mentality. They're not speaking to them on a regular basis so that they learn the language, even though this is obviously a positive side effect to speaking. They're really speaking to them because they understand what's going on, and you need to respect them and explain to them so that they have, a calm feeling of their surroundings and what's happening. This won't seem too different at the infant stage, but as you start to get the stubborn toddlers and you start to get, into kids that are a little bit older and can express themselves more, this mentality of why you're speaking and what you're speaking to them about becomes very key. So it's important just to start it young now so that it's something that just easily continues on. From the moment I gave birth, everyone was telling me at the maternity ward, when your baby cries at this age, she needs something. She's not manipulating you. You can't spoil her. So when she expresses herself, go and help her with whatever need she has. However, they were saying at the same time, it's very important when you're going to do something that, you take a little pause and you let her cry for a second, or then you go and cuddle her, or count to 10 and then go and feed her. You need to give her the opportunity and this delay to start to learn to self-soothe a bit, and also to start teaching her a bit about patience. Learning to wait, giving a pause, teaching patience. These are all things that French parents really incorporate into their parenting style right from the beginning. In the US, I would say that we have more push from doctors and from our peers at this age to respond to our kids' needs right away. But in fact, in France, there's more of this idea that patience is a skill that you learn when they're infants. I read in a book called French Children Don't Throw Food, and it's by Pamela Duckerman, and I've also heard this from my husband's French grandmother, that children need to learn patience, because without patience, they won't have frustration. And in order to understand how good it actually feels when you get something, when you get what you want, you have to learn what it feels like to be frustrated and not get what you want. And when I heard this, or when I read this, I was like, mind blown. I mean, of course, it's super important that kids understand what it doesn't feel like to get what they want. I just never imagined it would be at such a young age. And really the French incorporate this, even if it's tiny, 10 seconds. There's no like cry it out method going on at 2 weeks old, but 10 seconds here, 20 seconds there, 1 minute. Use your voice to talk to them, but don't go pick them up yet. There's this little pause that they really stick in anytime their child needs something, and it definitely starts helping that self-soothing. The French are known for all having babies that sleep through the night so perfectly. I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case. I do know French people here whose babies are a little bit more high maintenance when it comes to sleep than others. But if you look at the stats, it is true that 75% of French babies are sleeping through the night, which is about 6 to 8 hours by the time they're 4 months old. And when you look at the US statistics, you've got 60% of babies sleeping through the night when they're 8 months old. So you can see that there's less babies and it takes a little bit longer in the US. My experience is that in France, this focus on the pause and the delay at a young age has a pretty big impact on how babies end up sleeping. From what science tells us, babies wake up a lot during the night. So when you have a baby that sleeps during the night, you actually just have a baby that knows how to soothe itself back to sleep without parents' intervention. So if you're waking up a lot during the night to go and soothe your baby back to sleep, it's just that they haven't learned yet how to do it by themselves. And the longer you wait, obviously the harder it is, because then they get in a routine of their parents coming in and helping self-soothe them. So putting that pause into place is super important and will have really big effects on their sleep later on if you want to stick in a little bit of a French technique. French kids are notorious for being amazing eaters, and I was a terrible picky eater. My poor parents, I put them through hell with only wanting like plain peanut butter sandwiches and macaroni and cheese, but French kids tend to eat everything you put in front of them. This is really due to French kids being exposed to a lot of different types of food at a very young age. So first off, in the US, the American Academy of Pediatrics suggests and recommends that babies start solid foods at 6 months. In France, the majority of babies start at 4 months, but I don't think it's this 2-month difference that makes a huge difference later on. It's more, I think, the way that the French go about giving their babies food. So they start off with obviously everything mashed, and for the first month, it's only fruits and vegetables. And I think what's interesting is that they ask you to feed the baby the same vegetable 2 days in a row. The idea is to really get them used to the taste of the vegetable or the taste of the fruit before you move on to another one. And you don't ever mix the vegetables at this stage because it's really important for them to just get used to the taste of it on its own. If your baby doesn't like a vegetable or fruit or refuses, you don't have to force them to continue to eat it. However, the next day you still need to make them try it again. The French really have this idea that, of course, for everybody there are things that you don't like, and it's okay and it's possible to not like a food. However, at a very young age, infant and toddler, it's not possible to know if you don't like the food or if your palate just isn't used to it yet. So what they do is they just force you to try it over and over and over again. Also, a little tip that isn't infant related, but I think is so great, is in France, they tend to serve a starter at every meal, but nothing like elaborate. The French love like cut up carrots with a little vinaigrette sauce on it. And so what they'll do is they'll serve the vegetable as a starter when their kids are the hungriest. So this also really incites French kids to eat vegetables because, it's the only thing on the table until the rest of the main meal comes. In the US, my experience is kids are kind of the king and they whip us into shape with all of their needs. And in France, I would say it's a little bit of the opposite, where it's really the parents who depict the schedule. Where I say, for example, well, Eleonore really likes her morning nap at 9 a.m. But for me, it's a little complicated because this is like when we're trying to leave for work. And my French mother-in-law will say like, well, what's best for you? I mean, you're the one leading the way, and it's important that you find something that works for you and her, not just for her. And I feel like in the US, when I talk to my friends, that they're getting much more direction from their peers and from their pediatricians to let their kid kind of make their own schedule and maybe guide them, but don't really force them. And it's a little bit more focused on what's best for the baby than maybe what's best for the mom. Now, I'm not saying the French are like out of control and everything is about them. But I feel like in France, there's a huge push about having a balanced family. So yes, you've just had a child, and yes, your life will change, but it's still important to see yourself as a wife, as a marketer, as a friend, as a daughter, and not just as a mom. And in order to really get that balance, you need to find a schedule and a balance, I guess, in your family that works for both people, child and adult. So to sum up the main points, treat those little munchkins as if they understand everything that you're saying to them. Learning to wait is vital and will go a long, long way in teaching your baby self-soothing for sleeping. Keep those veggies coming. Even if the tiny human doesn't like them the first time, try again, and make you a priority. It's okay if the baby doesn't have that extra Einstein music class on Saturday mornings, if it's your moment to strap the baby in and get brunch with a friend. I really hope this video was helpful and you got some good info out of it. Really curious about what you guys think in the comments, so please leave your comments below. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done it. And happy Mother's Day to everybody, and I'll see you all next Wednesday. Bisous!